Hey everybody, my name is Lia Grainger and I'm the co-host of Curtain Call. Curtain Call is a weekly interview series with powerful women in the arts, and it's co-hosted by myself and Tamar Ilana and sponsored by Factor. We're super happy to have them on board now. Today, I should tell you that we are produced and presented by FabCollab, which is a new arts organization that started during the pandemic that connects artists with audiences, produces events, brings you different speakers, all different kinds of things. So you can check us out at fabcollab.ca or follow us on Instagram, Facebook, any of the socials at FabCollab Live. Today we're going to be joined by a wonderful artist that is very close to our hearts. She's a fabulous flamenco singer who's been working in the Toronto area for a decade at least. I don't know if she can fill you in on the exact time frames. Her name is Shirley La Shirlita La Pili Pincay. She's a fabulous singer and we're so excited to have her with us today. We first met probably about a decade ago, working together in a flamenco ensemble. Hi Tamar, hi Ali. And yes, it's been absolutely wonderful getting to know her over the last decade. Hi Charlita. Yeah, so she's going to be joining us in just a second, I believe. Tamar's mis-selling Sabor. Hi Judith. How are you? It's a beautiful day in Toronto. I'm very excited to say that this is the first stream I've done from my new house. Hi, Ben. From my new home down on Adelaide Street, and the buds are blooming outside my window, and I'm thrilled to be here in the sunshine. Shirley's going to be with us in just a moment. We're going to chat about her life and her artistic influences, and we're also going to hear her sing a little bit. And I might even dance a little bit, although I should have put on real pants for that. This was my one concern. Tamara asked me if I was going to dance, and I was like, my jeans are my one pair of jeans that still fit are in the shop. So it's leggings, but that's okay, right? Here she comes. All right. Who needs pants? I agree, Tamar. Could not agree more. In this day and age, it's this big. Yay!
Hey, hello.
How are you?
Great, thank you. You know what? I don't know how to use this.
You know what? Nobody does.
Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me okay?
I can definitely hear you okay, so I believe everybody else can.
I wish you could see the whole jigsaw Tetris puzzle I've made. Maybe I'll take
I think you need to sit on a phone book or something.
I'm just gonna make the chair try to make it higher. You know what? I'll take some books down. Hold on. Sorry about that. I did test it, but now it's like.
Well, you know what happens is when you go onto Instagram Live, it just like zooms in, like the frame gets smaller. I had a lot of critiques in the first couple of weeks that they were like, "Yeah, it's really good, but like your face is really big."
I know. I'm a little self-conscious.
Good note. Good note. How are you?
Oh, so nice to see you.
I know, it's so good to see you. This is such a nice opportunity. There's Sarah. Hello.
Oh, my son.
I feel like
and Marcita, all the gals.
Love it from all of you.
Oh yeah,
everybody.
right on. Like now I get to I watch all these Instagrams, and now it's like fun to I can see it. I'm gonna be reading instead of talking to you. I'm like, who's there?
Well, Mark says it's important to interact with the feed.
Oh wow.
So Shirley, tell us a little bit about yourself. Why don't you just tell me like a little bit? I know where you ended up, which was doing flamenco in Toronto and being like so immersed in the flamenco and the world music scene here in Toronto. But I honestly would love to know more about how the journey happened. how did you end up here and doing this?
Yeah, that's a great question because I have no idea. No, I do. I just never anticipated that. Such a funny trajectory. Where shall I begin? Well, okay, so basically, let's go way back, like 1983, 84. That's telling a little bit about my age, but you know what? I think my mom had me starting very young, as like many of our family's members do, get us into jazz dance. And I think my very first performance, I have to confirm that, and I actually have a picture. I'm probably going to pull it out a little bit later. It's right there, but of me doing Hawaiian dance, like my first ever like dance, steps were probably in Hawaiian, other than salsa or something in my mom, or cumbia in my mom's belly. But I totally did Hawaiian dance as a child. And like I hulaed, and I had a girl, like we lived in an apartment building when I was really young. And I remember going upstairs to Jane's house upstairs and run upstairs, and we go and practice with like a whole, flowers and outfit and everything. And then, so that started me on that path in terms of like movement. And I remember at a young age, maybe I was 7 or 8. I don't know how I did this, but I booked my own show or I booked to be on like a talent show at the local library.
Amazing.
And I don't even remember my mom encouraging me. And I remember telling her I had to go. And I had because I had diaper rashes as a kid, I couldn't wear like proper store-bought diapers. I had to wear the cloth ones. And by that time I wasn't, 7, I wasn't wearing those. So we had them around. I guess my mom used them for cleaning. I don't know. And I used that diaper rag, and I took myself to the local library, and I did It's a Hard Knock Life, like my own choreography, my own dance. And I freaking I remember whipping that rag on the floor, like, it's a hard knock life, right? So that was like the first little world.
You're theatrical from
very theatrical. To the point where I made tickets, little tickets, and I give them to my family members in the house. Probably a lot of us artists have done something like that, and made little tickets, and I gave them to my brothers and my parents and be like, come down to the living room. Here's your ticket for my show.
You need these or they won't let you in.
I made the show. I made the tickets. So
and
I don't know. It's something that was there, that existed before.
Yeah. What about flamenco? When did the flamenco start?
Yeah,
was that so young?
Yeah, I was pretty, so that turned into, jazz. And then eventually I went into, I don't know, grade 7 or grade 8. So what are you, 11, 12, around that age? And my mom, I was really into, I was such a rocker kid, grunge, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden.
Well, it was the time.
It was the times. But all my friends were into R&B and all that. And I was always they were my closest friends, but I was always doing something better. Not better. Oops. Different. Yeah, better in my head. Anyways, my mom's like, oh, there's a flamenco class that's happening over at her best friend's modeling school. And basically, it was in Mississauga. I lived in Mississauga. And my mom's friend had this modeling school for children. And they had a little catwalk. And basically, she set up dance classes with this Colombian woman, another Olga, 2 of us. And she taught me, 2 other girls, and my mom's friend who ran the modeling school, flamenco, some flamenco moves on the but literally on the catwalk. So you couldn't do vuelta, you couldn't do turns and vueltas and all that.
Right. It was more forward backwards. Movement.
And I was I was trying to not like it because I was into my grunge music. I was into Soundgarden. I was like, oh.
Well, it's funny how we resist what our parents put us into. You know, my parents really wanted me to play basketball, or my mom, they weren't sporty, but they were she's so tall, high school's gonna be hard. Just go do these sports camps. And I was I hate it. I don't want to go.
Yeah.
But then I did it and I loved it. And it was totally for me. But I was so against it and like resisted it so much.
Yeah, exactly. And I resisted it all through my teens. So what happened
Mm.
was, is eventually that woman that ran that modeling school, her name's Olga. I think she had a meeting at 401 Richmond. So for those of you in the flamenco
Mm.
community or in the arts community, you know 401 Richmond, right? It's like a beautiful arts building, and Esmeralda's studios there in the basement, Esmeralda Enrique. And my mom's friend somehow had a meeting in that building. This is how I understand the story. But she had a meeting, and then she somehow found Esmeralda's studio, and she called up my mom and she's like, there's a flamenco studio in Toronto. And at that point I was probably grade 9. And that's when I started driving from Mississauga over to Esmeralda studio with Olga and my mom, like all of us.
I did not know this.
Really?
So you were taking classes at Esmeralda's in grade 9?
Yeah, I started in grade
Oh,
9.
I had no idea. That's crazy.
Yeah, 14 awkward teenage
Wow.
girl. like
Amazing.
and
Yeah.
this is what I was gonna say, because I was thinking about this, and I'm like, because eventually what happens is or for me anyways, like I wanted to break up with flamenco so many times.
Mhm.
I went through so many breakups, like in grade 7 and 8, because I'm like, I want to listen to my like depressing music. I want to be sad, but this makes me feel good.
I mean, you can be sad with flamenco.
I know, but I was still too young to understand, and I was
No,
like,
I
I'm supposed to do these like, it was more like rumba y flamenco, right? And then and then I went to Esmeralda studio, and I loved it. The thing is, I really loved it, but I secretly loved it, and I was like kind of fighting with myself
Mhm.
about it, and fighting with my parents, well, mostly my mom about it. They're like, oh, I don't know if I
Mhm.
want to go. And eventually that took a couple of breakups throughout high school, and I think eventually, like, I went to India for a year. I don't know if you know that, but I traveled in India and lived in India for a year. And funny enough, like, one of the motivations to going to India was, one, because I love photography and I wanted to do photography. But the other was, I was like, Kathak dance was really cool. And I love to study
Very
Kathak.
beautiful.
And I saw Esmeralda's show Fire Dance, which was a
Yeah.
merger of Toronto Tabla Ensemble and Esmeralda's company together. I watched that show, like, it was at Harborfront, and I watched it I think 2 times, and I was pretty young, so that imprinted me.
I didn't know that. Cool. By the way, a
Yeah.
lot of
Oh
people are
yeah.
relating to your flamenco breakup story.
They what?
Are relating to your flamenco
Oh
breakup.
yeah. So many breakups, right? So yeah.
Very good.
So when I went to India, I was like, I'm done. Like, forget it. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know,
How old were you?
23.
Okay.
And I think I just like, yeah, I just didn't connect to it, or maybe I didn't know how to connect to it. Still young, and then I went to India, and then there was like one particular moment, and that's kind of like the turning point when I came back for me. And it was like, I know this is going to sound super trippy, but I was in Goa, like, hanging out, rave central. I only went to one rave ever when I was in Goa, but I was there, and this wasn't actually a time when I was at a rave. It was just like on a beach, and I don't know, it was like there was like a fire, and I started dancing, like totally doing like marcaje, like marking steps, right? Like flamenco
Wow.
marking steps. And I was like, I don't know why I'm doing this. I haven't thought about this in like a year. And here I am doing it.
Natural.
Totally. And it was just like my body was telling me, like, do that. You gotta pursue that. So I came back, and then I did everything. I did flamenco, I did kathak, because I missed my opportunity because I was traveling so fast and so much in India. I was riding a
Yeah.
bicycle for like 1,000
Amazing.
kilometers.
Wow.
So there was no time to stop and live until later on in my trip. But by the time I had time, it was too hot in Varanasi, which was the place that I wanted to study kathak.
Mhm.
And they're like, no, everyone's on vacation. Like, you can't. So I was just like, whatever. So I came back to Toronto. I started with flamenco again. I would run from Esmeralda studio. And at that time, Toronto Tabla Ensemble was just down the street, a few blocks up
Mhm.
Medina. So I literally would
Okay.
start at Katak, and then I would run up the road and go to Esmeralda's and dance like several times a week. And then eventually I got onto Carmen Romero's classes.
Yeah.
So I would run
You
from,
were
I don't know,
busy.
I probably didn't do three in a class, three in a night, maybe once in a while I would, but there was a point where I was doing that trio. Like I was like, Kata,
Wow.
Esmeralda, or Esmeralda, Carmen, Carmen, Esmeralda, just trying to get as
My
much.
Carson studio was just down the street at the time, was it not?
Yeah, yeah. So that was at over when it was at um
Mhm.
Carmen Romero was over at Mad for Dance,
Natalie. Yeah.
right? And that's
And
where
that's
you and
where I
I
met
met.
you.
Yeah.
So, and so when did you start singing?
So yeah, so I always sang, and
Okay.
probably I think in one of the bios there, it says something
Yeah.
about that. My mom's family are all, home musicians, folklore, like at home. I really relate the like Sound of Music family.
Oh,
Like,
really?
yeah, because my parents or my mom has like 12, 13 siblings. I mean, not
Wow.
all of them are living now, but a lot of them were musicians or like home musicians. Only one of them became like a lead choir at a university. But yeah, everyone would come to my parents or my mom's house, my grandparents' house, and like come listen to my family members sing. And still to this day, like all my cousins, they play accordion. It's so cute. Like I'll get WhatsApp videos of them like playing accordion and songs, and it's always been like a thing for me because I live here, and
Yeah.
I only have one group of family members here, but they're
Tell
from my
everybody
dad's.
where are you from? Where's your family
So
from?
yeah, so I was the first born here.
Hmm.
My parents are from, my mother's Colombian, from Manizales, Colombia, from the Andes, the cooler coffee region. And my dad is from the coast of Ecuador in a little town called Hipijapa. And
Such a
what's that?
cool name.
Yeah, Hipijapa.
Mhm.
And 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 so what I was going to say was just basically I felt very torn about the situation because there's so much family there and they all do music and I was really drawn to that, but I didn't have that foundation of music here because my mom was the oldest of the female siblings. She took care, so she didn't pick up the guitar like my aunts all did. She didn't sing like my aunts all did. She does sing, but she had to take care of all the family members, right? So I
Yeah.
always felt like a uh, something like, oh, I need to figure that out. Like I want to do that too. So I always sang, and I really got into singing. Oh, like Mariah Carey. You give me that album, Vision of Love, I can nail everything on that because I studied that like crazy. And that was my also like funny paradox because I was like Soundgarden and Mariah Carey. Truth.
I mean, they're both great. And also, it gives you a good foundation for studying every little detail of
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, yeah. So I learned all those little nuances of how to study cante or song. Like
Yeah.
that helped in my mind, but it never translated to paper, which you need some
Hmm.
like when you're doing flamenco singing. So eventually I came back, did study with all these, amazing maestras in Toronto. And then eventually I'm like, okay, what is this cante all about? What is this singing all about? And I watched the first flamenco movie by Carlos Saura.
Yeah. If
And
anyone is new to flamenco, that's a great introduction. Is the
yeah,
original
you can
flamenco
find
movie.
chunks, large chunks of it on YouTube. The
That's
first one by
amazing.
Carlos Saura. And I had a really, honestly, the truth is, I had a very uh, wine, like a deep wine night with a dear friend of mine, which you also know, and a lot of people here, um, Maria from La Palette. And we
Oh,
were just like had a really heavy night of lots of wine and watching that over and over. And it just like clicked. The Martinete by Agujetas. I was like, let's forward. And then finally it hit. And I'm like, shit, man, there's like something really intense there. And I want to know what
yeah.
that intensity is about. And I want to explore that. So that's kind of what opened the door to a little bit of flamenco cante. And I didn't know many people that did flamenco singing here. Gina was one of the people that I definitely looked to for singing because she was a singer here, is a singer here.
Mhm.
And and then I just started listening, and I think those skills that I used to listen to Mariah Carey and Debbie Gibson and all those, from the past, like really started helping because my ear, I think is trained to hear and repeat. Repitar? Repeat.
Yeah.
You know,
Otra vez.
and I missed a chunk there. I got really heavily into jazz as well. But that was
Okay, so there's like a lot of it. Like, what about being in Toronto? Like the fact that you're like based in Toronto through all of this, and especially like I've known you over the past decade or so, and I remember, it's like still a thing, is that you're very involved in sort of the world music scene here. Like you started you not just stop saying. I keep thinking that you started like when I met you, which is like not accurate.
It's true though. That is true. In a degree, to a certain degree, that, sorry to interrupt you. I just want to say, like, to a certain degree, I think what year did you come here?
2008.
Yeah. Okay. So while you were talking in the intro about me, I literally found the Soleá por Bulerías that I think I sang for you. And that book says 2007, 2000, right there. My
Oh, wow.
These are my first beginning little letra books. But,
I remember your little notebook.
Yeah. So I was just going to say, like, you keep thinking, but it's true because that was like a new birth, you know, in terms of merging the cante with dance and like figuring out what in the world is that and fitting cante in the measure of certain flamenco palos. I'm trying to figure like what are other words of palos, compás, rhythms of flamenco, like the flamenco rhythms, right? So that people that don't know flamenco can fully understand. But yeah, you're right though, because I was starting a new thing. So I'd had some of the steps in me, but I didn't know how to translate them into live music. Like there was none of that, you know?
Yeah.
I was aware of that. So
and then
when I met you, go ahead.
I didn't want to yeah, because I like at that time, there was just this like explosion of sort of like street world music happening in Toronto that like we were lucky enough to be a part of. How has like all the contact that you've had with all of these other bands and all of these other sort of international styles of music had on you? Like how have they influenced you? Because there's been so much. Like Lemon Bucket was becoming a thing like right when we were starting. So many other groups.
Yeah, about 5 years later, I think probably like after we've met, or maybe 4 years, 2011. Well, I mean, how can we do an interview without bringing up our dear Dennis Duffin? One of our flamenco buddies who lives in Spain right now, but he was a big influence. So basically, you know, I was merging, like learning the cante, learning how to insert into song. And when I met you, I got the chance to learn how to really insert a particular Palo Soleá por Bulerías into guitar with Ben. I think Ben's here. So nice. And then eventually this guy named Dennis Duffin like showed up at these live dance classes that Esmeralda would do with live guitar. And I remember Arna, she's going to be laughing, but we literally looked at each other and we're like, because he was like on it. He knew what he was doing. And we thought we knew all the guitars, or we knew, you know, majority. Even if we never met them, we knew who they were. But this guy came out of nowhere. And Tamara and I were like, I remember exactly where I was standing. And I looked at her and she looked at me and we're like, who the hell is this guy? And what was beautiful about meeting him is that he was really in love with cante, you know, and he really, you know, we developed a friendship. And I think that was like May. I remember we developed a really strong friendship. And over the like months coming in, you know, he was like encouraging me. And I'm like, oh my God, I need to practice these letras and I need a guitar. So like, if you're into learning it, let's do this. And so he was my connection to that world of Lemon Bucket and what eventually became Fedora Upside Down, which for those of you out there was a collective of kind of like folk music here in Toronto. And that just started a whole other world that we got to live beautifully, you know?
It was great. I found it was really wonderful it was a really supportive environment, and like Dennis really drove that, was like making everything really inclusive, like being like, who wants to be in the band? Okay, cool, you're in the band. You know?
Like no matter what, you're in the band.
Because it was all these kind of like ragamuffins of flamenco, kind of felt like, who were like trying to do our own thing, get something going, but we weren't in any of the companies or anything like that, but we really wanted to do it. And he was like,
and a lot of that had to do, and I've spoken on other like little chats where, you know, different schools had different students and not everyone really knew each other. And we didn't like, even like I'd go to a certain student and be like, well, there's people that know flamenco, but they're like, I never met them before. And I know their stuff. That's amazing in Toronto, right? It's such a small community. And there was all these pockets. So I think that, yeah, that little flamenco movement with Fedora really helped bring some of those students out, including yourself and
bringing everybody together.
Yeah, bring people together and being like, okay, like cool that we have something so strongly and deeply in common, but we don't know each other. So it brought the environment for sure.
It is always to me like shocking when there's someone new in like the community in Canada. I'm like I remember the first time I saw Carla Soto at a party. I was like, who the hell is this? I literally said that to her. I had a couple drinks. I was like, who the hell are you?
Yeah, it was probably the first time she went to that because like that was really early on in those days. Yeah, Carla.
It was at Junior's house.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so there was so many wonderful gatherings and stuff. We've got to keep that going. It's been hard this last year to have a lot of huergas, which is a flamenco party. What have you been up to? Have you been able to continue making music or dancing or anything? It's been really hard for me. There's been like some opportunities, but yeah, it's difficult. Have you been able to stay artistically inspired?
Well, how are we now? Like a year in, right? So I think more than a year. Sorry, I meant to, more than a year. And I think honestly, like the first chunk of that year, it's just like go in, you know, at least for me. And there was a lot of hardship at the very, you know, for all of us. And I experienced the hardships too with a loss. And a double loss, got quite a bit of losses there, but in terms of relationship and so it didn't really, there was an opportunity to do some music, but really from a tender place because we're all in this. Yeah. Like I sometimes I think about it, I'm like, it was so intense. Like you forget, like it's still intense, but it's a different intensity. We're used to it now. But I had a beautiful opportunity with the Aga Khan on two different occasions, really in the beginning, about a year ago now, pretty much next week will be about a year ago. So I had an opportunity to just work on other stuff that I like to do. And I was living with my partner at the time, and you know, he's not a flamenco guitarist, but he does know how to play beautiful music. And I was really looking to kind of merge that because, as I said, I was into Soundgarden before and Mariah Carey and flamenco, like all at once. And I still exist. And so many of us are still like that too, right? Like flamenco is a huge part. And I think I lost a lot of music throughout the few years because I immersed myself so much in flamenco. But I love other music. And a lot of that is like from South America and, you know, folkloric music. I love jazz. So I was able to merge and bring some of that flavor because that's kind of what really drives me as well with for that show with the Aga Khan. So we did one of these, like they're called Together at Home or Together show, I can't remember. So I had that opportunity, and then so that was great. And then in the summer, Tamar and I along with Matt Salek and Derek Gray, we got to do a beautiful concert in the garden, everything on the go, right? Like I think Tamar and I worked a lot, and we worked all these years together, and we work well together because it's like that intuition, you know, to react. Yeah. So you're not allowed any rehearsal. Like you just got to go for it, you know? So we just got together, ran it, and then just recorded it for the day. So we did that through the music garden. And that was also a beautiful opportunity and so rewarding. Yeah.
Outside.
Yeah. And like not doing it for months. Oh my God. And then to do it, it was just like, oh, it was so good.
Well, it's going to be quite a thing, like when we're to start performing again. Because I had these things like every few months that are like live streaming or live streaming. And it's like
and then we had that wonderful opportunity with yourself and Nick Hernandez and Derek and Tamar and myself again, but now in the actual Aga Khan Museum. And they had like this whole vision of recording in different rooms. So it was really beautiful. And again, like a thing, like we just have to kind of do it on this, like a quick run through and then on the spot, right? So I feel like it kind of really perked that, like that essence of flamenco, that, you know, that tablao.
Yeah,
Like
because it is
turned on your senses to that, right?
yeah, that it's improvised and that you're feeding off of each other in this live
I
sense.
love that. I live in that. That's what I, you know.
You did really well, I thought. I had never worked with Nick before, and it was pretty smooth. And I don't know, it was fun. Yeah, I had a really good time.
Yes, it was really nice and really, like, I don't know, flamenco is a hard art form. And
Yeah.
throughout all these years and still learning. And so you asked like, what else am I doing? And I'm still taking classes, you know?
Yeah, of course.
So
You study it
always,
forever.
right? And so earlier on in like May, throughout the summer, I was working with a singer that I absolutely love. Her name's Anna Colom. And I really love her because she does that blend that I was talking about, like with, I think her husband's from Argentina. So there's that flair in the guitar too. And she mixes music from Veracruz.
I have a question about that. So, like, in terms of like when you're mixing other things with flamenco and you're like, what are your thoughts on sort of coming to flamenco as a non-Spanish person? But then you also have these like Latino roots. Like, how do you feel? How are you making things feel authentic for you? Do you ever feel like an outsider, or like what? How do you negotiate that sort of part of it? Is something I always like to ask people in flamenco and in folk music in general, if they're practicing something that isn't from their own country, their own country.
Yeah, it's such a great question. It's something I think is important to examine and important to look at, and I think it's forever changing because we're always forever changing. Because I don't know, like this is the art form I fell into, right? And the one that really took over, you know?
Yeah, it resonates with you.
It resonates with me, and also like, yeah, I think, and I know for all of you guys out there that do this art form, it's like an opportunity to really, like, you get into the certain senses that, and certain intensities, certain place, like there's an access point to get into those places. And I feel for me, flamenco does that for me. And some of those like Latin sorrowful songs, but well, lots of different music, right? But I don't know, flamenco did it for me. In terms of like how do I make it? Did you say how do I?
Yeah, like how do you, I feel like for me, it was like a long time of trying to like imitate what other like really authentic flamenco exactly, which was like not possible to do just because like for so many reasons, but like actual physical reasons, but then also like they have been doing, they like, it's like part of their daily lives. It's like the way that they speak in that part of Spain is the way that they sing. It's like, if you're born into it, it's like literally is in you from the day you're born, you know? It's like the way they like wave is like
from
more
the moment you're in your mother's womb,
the way we are, right? So like, no matter how you slice it, like it's just not going to be exactly the same. So it's like, and then trying to figure out, well, then what do I have to say? Like, who am I as an artist if I'm trying to do this thing that isn't, like, what can I take from this? And then what do I bring? I don't know. I'm still like answering those questions for myself, but I feel like so I'm like, who am I? All the time.
I know. Well, that's what I said earlier on, like at the beginning questions, like it's a forever question. And right now, the way I kind of face that question, or I face, you know, feeling it through is like, you know, and a large aspect of myself is, you know, I like to work with, how do I say this? Like, I really like to work with those who came before, the ancestors, right? And that's a big, huge thing in me in the last few years that really came to me, and I can't ignore it anymore. Like, I got to work with it. And, you know, where I'm going with that is like honoring the people that lived before and that put this art form on into the world, you know? And so I don't know. I could change my opinion probably in a few, like, who knows when, but it could happen very like, but basically what I'm saying is I think if you're, you know, if you have a certain intention, for me, you know, a certain intention, I have an altar over here, and Carmen Amaya is on my altar, you know? So,
Amazing.
you know, I want to respect and honor the footsteps that were there before me that laid out this beautiful art form that allowed me to explore and discover and learn from, right? So in one respect, I feel like that's one way. Obviously, still, it's not from my roots. I mean, I don't know if you want to, probably there's a link of, apparently there is something, you know, from Spain that
Yeah, that probably actually is.
colonialism, like, you know, that whole thing, right? So I'm like, I should be able to do that art form. No. But I don't know, making it yourself, like making it your own, you know. I've been so graced and like with so many opportunities to work with a lot of different projects that were not just like flamenco tablao shows, you know, they were like intended, you know. For one that I think about was with, you know, Rie, one of the flamenco dancers in Toronto, a Japanese flamenco dancer. And she really helped, she really wanted to honor, we did a work with Japanese and flamenco where I had to learn like a Japanese song and sing it in a flamenco form. And we started with like a song that opens, or a practice that opens to the Buddhists, or sorry, to ancestors. And so kind of like, so I was like, wow, like you're really making it your own and exploring like what that is, you know? And I never put it all together, but like, that's the way I function now. And that's the way.
Where is Rie now? I haven't heard from Rie in forever. Is she still in Toronto?
She is in Toronto, yeah. Yeah, she's always, she's hidden out there. She's doing her thing. But and so I've had the fortune to also work with other artists that, you know, a couple of years ago we did a show in Hamilton where we worked in like 100-year-old building, and it was I forget the name of the company now. It's like an electric company that did like blenders, and I can't remember. It was a factory, yeah. It was a factory that it was part of the it's all escaping.
I saw
like winter
with Larissa, right?
That's correct. And
beautiful. The little stages with like candles and stuff, I think.
Exactly. So we decided to really, you know, we work together as a team, which is something I truly miss. I miss like that inspiration of working with people and like, you know, thinking about the project when you leave from a rehearsal and like something in your life that shows you like a sign to continue or to move in a different direction in that project. It's not the same. You can do it online. You can talk to people on the phone, but like being immersed with other people and like letting things come through. So in that project, we had a beautiful opportunity to work in that building, and we wanted to kind of create the sense of like waking up the women that worked in this building, you know. So and it was very theatrical with a light guiding and me being like in the human form, but walking into these spirits, which were, you know, the dancers, Angela, Larissa, Kyo, and like in doing that, I was like, wow, okay, like we're really waking up and honoring the people that were here before through this dance form, and to like stack the energy of that. Like I went out and I found like tree branches and I brought them in, and I found an image online of the women that used to work in that building to kind of like bring up the magic, you know, like bring up the energy, stack up the energy. And I was like, even if this tree, you know, wasn't the original tree from 100 years ago, it might be the baby of like the original tree, right? But just to bring in that. So anyways, all to say that I feel like that I need that. Yeah, I like working that way, and in some way I feel like that helps honor this art form in that way, you know.
Totally, yeah. I've also like lately really been enjoying, or I find it really useful to like have some sort of narrative or inspiration that's beyond just like doing some cool moves to like at the right point in the song, which is also like really fun and rewarding. Like I love doing that, and like I like the most like traditional forms of flamenco are kind of like what I enjoy like watching the most.
Yeah.
But when I'm creating stuff, I find like it makes the work better if you're like, okay, here's the story I'm telling, even if it's
Yeah.
just in your, because like with dance is just generally so abstract that when you make it really literal, it's like still hard to get the message across. But if you have an idea of what you're saying, I feel like it comes through in the work.
And in some way, I feel like you're honoring. So like talking about going back to that question, you're saying like, how do you feel doing that art form? Well, in that way, when I practice that way, I feel like it's still part of who I am. It just happens to be through this trajectory of this, but slowly it's emerging, you know, it's blending.
It's a journey. We're all on a journey.
We're on
It's a lifelong journey.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, would you mind like singing something for us, maybe?
Sure thing. I was gonna actually try to attempt to do like a little guitar thing, because so you asked what I was doing, but I my nails way too short, and I only know like certain chords, and it's like, what am I trying?
Well, I mean, if you have something you can share, please.
What's that?
If you have something you can share, even if it's just like a lecture.
No, I'll do some singing. But yeah, that's another thing. I used to play guitar in high school, and that's what I did this year. Picked it up and took a couple of lessons just to like refresh.
Yeah.
And like I'm doing some stuff. I might have to hire Ben, if you're there. I might have to hire you for some flamenco course. Been thinking about it, and
you should.
Anyway, so another person I've been doing some classes online with was Miriam Allard. I just wanted to do a shout out there, because it's been so amazing to do some movement, just a little bit. And I just actually finally put some foam under my flamenco floor yesterday. Like, that's it.
Amazing.
And then the other person I've been working with is a beautiful singer who I have adored and admired for so many years, Sandra Carrasco. I'm bringing it up because that's what I'm going to sing, something that I'm learning with her. And I will say, like, this is pretty cool. Like, I know this is a horrible situation that, you know, we're living through, or we're just living, like, but it's brought these people that I wanted to work with way closer. So I never thought I'd ever take classes with her, and now she's offering classes. So
I have to say, I was missing all of the wonderful little comments and stuff from people. Oh, I'm so bad at staying on top of it. But people, many people have said many nice things.
Oh no, I want to see them all. So what happens? Do they go away after? Sorry to take a break.
I don't think so. I can only go back so far, but I especially loved the things that people were saying about just their relationships with flamenco.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, and just like how
people up and come back.
Struggle. People break up, people get back together.
Yeah.
And people understand your taste in I believe it was grunge. Vanessa says it was the 90s. We understand.
Yeah. For sure. But then there was like, yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, I remember
that. So I'm like that on one ear, Mariah Carey here, and some like Soundgarden or Pearl Jam here.
Time for that matchup to happen.
7-year bit.
With all the flamenco.
Yeah. So when I learned flamenco, when I was doing my guitar in the 90s, it's so funny. Like I was like whole, like and now it's like Rocio de todos campos.
You've come a long way. I don't know now that's like pretty rocker too. You see everything now with flamenco.
I know, it's true, and I love it. I'm all about it. So that's why I like this Sandra Carrasco.
Everyone's requesting Vision of Love. Everyone's saying Vision of Love.
All right, sure. I don't
know what that means.
Okay, I'll do one line and then I'll do flamenco. Okay, guys?
Okay.
That's Mariah Carey. What do you mean you don't know Vision of Love?
I don't know. I'm sure I know it.
Treated me kind, sweet destiny, carried me through the nation. Come on, guys, put the lyrics in. To the one that was waiting for me. had to be strong. So I believe. I don't remember the lyrics. Let's go to Vision Love. I had a vision of love, and it was all that you're giving to me. Whoa, my pitch is like, woo!
Hey man, I recognize
very
it.
pitchy.
I definitely recognize it.
Wasn't ready for that, guys. All right.
No, Mariah is.
Let's do some Granaina.
I made a Christmas album with my boyfriend. He plays a bunch of instruments, and I sang Mariah's "All I Want for Christmas." And we made a video and like edited. We did like 20 songs, and it's crazy. It's like I'm like. Ooh, you know how it's it's insane.
Oh God,
it's not.
You gotta do this, and you gotta do like the singing.
Oh, I did. I'll send you the YouTube link. It's private. It isn't not a public. It's quite funny.
Make that public. You never know.
I think I know.
All right, let's try this. So, working with this woman, Sandra Carrasco, and I haven't looked at this. This is called a Granaina from Granada. And man, whew, I studied a Granaina like 2011 or something like that, but it's hard work. So here it is.
Yeah,
here it is,
the
new version. The new version. And now I'm getting nervous. Oh, okay. Será por el hablar de la gente que tú te fuiste de la tierra mía. Será por el hablar de la gente, pero te entendido. Que a mí me va a costar la muerte. Por el haberte conocido.
Ole! Is that new? Is that a new?
Yeah, it's originally by there's a great video of it. It was like
her
name is
so
Tia
beautiful.
Habichuela. Tia Habichuela from Granada. And I learned it from Sandra Carrasco, and it's a trip learning that because you have to like give
So
it
free.
Zoom time with guitar. She plays the guitar.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically it's just to kind of give an idea perhaps for
Everybody
the murmurs.
loves it. A million hearts flowing across the
Thank
screen.
you.
It's so beautiful. It's
the
really
Thank you.
It's bad.
But yeah, it's sad. So basically, it's like perhaps because of the murmurs, I'm going to say murmurs um, of the people that you have left, and knowing you will cost my life, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Understand that knowing you will cost my life. Dramatique. Oy, oy vey. Flamenco.
It's a classic. It's like, well, I'm gonna die because of you. Thank you. Oh man, yeah. I haven't been listening to any flamenco really. Like, I really just listening to that, I was like, oh, I got to get back into this. Yeah, lately I've really had strong desire to be in Spain. I don't know.
I haven't been since like 2011 or 12. It's been such a
Well, I
long
think we should plan a trip with all of the Toronto flamencos and just have a big party once we can.
I love it. I think we should plan that Dufferin Grove flamenco fire party.
Yes, we should have flamenco jam. Everyone's invited.
Yeah.
FabCollab. You're all required to be there sometime in the unknown future. Hopefully soon. Shirley, I want to thank you so much for doing this today and for giving us all a window into your life and into your creative process and your story. It's been so wonderful to be able to connect with you in this way and to be able to, for me personally, to have this conversation with you and then also to be able to share it with everybody who's here today and who will watch it afterwards, I'm sure. So thank you so much, and I hope I get to see you very soon.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone. I just want to say thank you to FabCollab, to you, Lia. So nice to connect with you, and to Tamar and Ali, and for all this amazing work you guys are doing. So kudos to you guys, and I'm wishing you guys all the best.
Thank you. We're loving doing it. It's been an amazing experience. Speaking of, I'm just going to say that next week on Curtain Call, we're going to be having Miranda Mulholland, who's an amazing fiddler. She's also the chair of the board at Roy Thompson Hall and Massey Hall. So she'll be able to tell us, what's happening over there and what's happening with some of these bigger venues and art organizations now and going forward, which should probably be super interesting to a lot of different performing artists. I know I want to know what's in store, in our arts world here in Toronto. And yeah, everybody check in with what we've got. New stuff happening all the time. FabCollab is producing different festivals. There's music every Friday night. So you can check on our website, or every other Friday night, fabcollab.ca, and on all of our social media at FabCollab Live. And I'll be finding all of you. Hi, Sylvia. I'll be finding all of you guys, and Hamid. I'll be finding all of you guys who requested the link to my Christmas medley.
Yes!
It's pretty awesome. I'm not going to joke. We edited it. It's pretty cool.
All I want for Christmas is you.
I'll tell you right now, I'm on the drums for that part. I go, ba-dum, 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 da, 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 da. You'll see.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways, I had to do something with myself during.
Yeah, of course. I'm like also getting into embroidery. I'm like doing, just do all these things. Fixing my bike, my bicycle.
All right. Well, I'm going to wrap this up. Love you so much.
Safety to you.
Much love to everybody out there. And we'll be back tomorrow. We'll be back next week with Miranda Mulholland.
Ole, ole.
Bye.
Bye, loves. Good night. Good afternoon. Bye.